So what's going on, guys? DIY Dan here again. In this video, I had purchased a 2002 TIGE boat and trailer, and in order to get the trailer ready to go to the lake, I had to do a couple things. There's going to be a quick list at the beginning of this video, and I will put times to show you at what point in this video I go over that item. So that way you can fast forward what you really don't need to look at. And as always, in all my videos, I will tell you the dumb stuff I did so it doesn't happen to you. So let's get to it. So I'm going to be replacing my jack, fixing my boat guides, adding some ratchet straps, replacing my lights, and going over a couple other minor things and giving some helpful hints. And I'll also be talking a little bit about the brakes and why you need that 5th wire on your 5-pin flat. So let me know in the comments if you guys like the fact that I broke this down like this. My goal of breaking this down like this is to not waste your guys' time. So the first thing we're going to do is swap out the jack. Now I got a Fulton jack from Amazon that was the same kind as mine for about 70 bucks. So since the original Fulton jack took a crap on the previous owner, they put this other kind of chintzy jack in place of it. And I thought about taking it off, but it is a good backup and I don't need it anywhere else, so I figured I'd just leave it on here. I use this jack to hold the trailer up while I change the other jack instead of hooking it up to my truck. So I did try and take my old jack apart to see if I could fix it, but the gears were completely stripped out. So when I bought one, I wanted to make sure it was the same as what I already had. Because the mounting for the jack was welded to the trailer and I did not want to have to remove it or put a bolt on one next to it. I wanted it to be the same style so I could just bolt and unbolt it. So right here, I'm just putting the jack together. I had to install the wheel. You'll notice that I put grease on the bushing in the wheel just so it stayed a little lubricated and rolled better. Now we're just putting the handle on and tightening that down as well. There is instructions and it was pretty self-explanatory. So right here I am unbolting the pivot point. That is the difference between a Fulton jack and some of the other manufacturers. A lot of them have like a snap ring or a different way of attaching the pivot to the jack. So I'd already taken the nut off of the one that was welded to the trailer frame. There was basically a bushing or a washer and the nut that I had to put back on. Make sure you put the bushing on in the right direction because otherwise the jack will not pivot. And then I put the nut on. Tightening it down was a little tedious because you could only get a regular wrench in there because there's just not much room between that bolt and the jack. You want to make sure you tighten that nut down really tight. The bushing will not allow you to over tighten it. One thing I didn't think about when purchasing this jack was to see if there was one that was a little taller. The reason being is I am almost at the max height of this jack to get it hooked up to my truck. And the farther you have these jacks extended to their max height, the less weight they carry and the more stress is put on the jack itself. If you look closely, you can see this is leveraged to the side a little bit and not sitting perfectly straight. Now, depending on how close the top of your jack is to your boat, you might not be able to get a taller jack, but it is something to consider if you're looking to buy one. I could have easily gotten a jack a couple inches taller and not had a clearance problem. And that might have been what caused the last jack to go bad, is them trying to crank it past its max height and stripped out the gearing in the jack. So one thing I've always wanted to try and never got around to doing on one of my boats is putting the auto retracting ratchet straps on the trailer. So I got these off of Amazon. It was a 2-pack for about 25 bucks. And so far I've used it a handful of times and it's worked out well. So using a flathead screwdriver, I pried the light bulb and the rubber out of the trailer. One of the tabs on the trailer was bent, so I just used a crescent wrench to bend it back out of the way because I was a little limited on space for the new ratchet. So these ratchet straps have one mounting hole, so I held it up in place, marked it, then proceeded to drill all the way through one side of the frame. Now these ratchet straps came with bolts long enough to go through both sides of the frame, but since I had access with being able to pull that light out, I just went through the one. I used a pilot bit first and then drilled it through. Since I was using different bolts, I decided to go one size bigger just because. That ended up being a bad idea because I could barely fit the wrench for the size bolt I used in the ratchet strap to hold it while tightening it down on the other side. I did get them tightened down, but it would have been easier with the same size that came with the ratchet strap. So all that was left to do was pop the rubber for the light back in and pop the light bulb back in. With these rubber grommet lights, sometimes you have to use a screwdriver to just help pry it back into place into the frame. On this one I didn't have to, but I have had that happen to me before. So to operate these straps, all you have to do is push the lever in the down position while pushing the red button on the lever handle. Then you can pull it to whatever length you need, get it hooked up, and then just ratchet it tight. To release it, it was the same story. Just push the lever to the down position and push the red button at the same time, and the strap will come loose. Then push the red button in and it auto retracts the rest of the way. So we've already been to the lake this season with these, and this was really time saving. I like the fact that I didn't have to worry about putting the straps back in the truck or getting them back out of the truck. Plus, they weren't that much more expensive than regular straps anyways. So I had to change out one of the LED lights on the back of my trailer. Now I did go to an automotive store, but I ended up paying less on Amazon for 2 lights with the rubbers and the pigtails than I would have paid for just the bulb at one of the stores. Before ordering a light, make sure you pop the old one out. I used a screwdriver to pry it out, and then the rubber comes out easily. To check the pigtail on the back to make sure you order one with the same electrical connection. So the seal on the light itself must have gone bad because you can see the water inside the light, which is what took it out. So I've got one of my new lights. I went ahead and took the pigtail off because I made sure it was the same as what I already had. Now I have had to pull the grommet away from the light itself and put it in separate. However, this one seemed like it would go just putting it all in at one time. So I plugged my electrical connector in and then proceeded to push the rubber with the light in the hole, and it popped right into place without a problem. One other thing that I needed to do is the back of my trailer has poles to help guide you on the trailer. Both of my foams were completely shot, so I ended up ordering a set off Amazon for like 35 bucks. Had to get the hyper light so we looked good, and I was missing one of the PVC tubes. So it ended up being just 2-inch PVC. So I grabbed a stick of it, cut one to length, and got a cap. Right here I'm just using some dish soap and water to make it easier to slide the foam over the PVC. I tried doing it without that lubrication and it was much harder to do. With the lubrication it worked out well and slid down pretty easily. So one issue I did have with my new PVC is that when I slid it over the pipe, it does not want to come back off. It is rather a tight fit. Now the other pipe, the PVC on it, slides up and down without a problem. However, I don't know whether this pipe is a little bent and that's why that one was broke when I got the boat. Now I do always store these under the boat cover when it's sitting in the backyard, just so the sun doesn't beat the crap out of the covers. And on that side, instead of just pulling the PVC off, I'll pull the whole pipe off because it's not that heavy anyways. So another thing this boat trailer was missing was the side rubber for the front roller for the boat. We discovered we wanted that roller on after the first trip to the lake when we got off center the trailer a little bit and scratched the side of the boat. So I was able to switch this out in my side yard. However, it might be easier to unload your boat at the lake, have the tools ready to switch it out, and just do it while you're parking the trailer. The reason I say that is there might be too much weight from the boat on that front roller where when you take the bolt out, it might come down on the bracket and you might have a hard time getting it back up into place, depending on your boat and application. On another one of my boat trailers, I actually replaced the running boards. I had all the boards measured, cut, and carpeted already, and just screwed them in and out while the boat was sitting at the dock and I was parking the trailer as well. So once again, I went on Amazon and found just the side rollers, 2 of them for $7. So I loosened the strap so I could get the roller off. Then using a 3/4 inch socket, I removed the bolt with my impact. Then continued to use the impact to run the bolt out. Put one new rubber on the bolt. Then I had to leverage the roller up while using the impact to run the bolt in to line up that second hole. So I don't know whether these new rollers were a little bit thicker material than what the original was, but I had to use a C-clamp to tighten the bracket up so I could get the nut started. Then I tried tightening the nut up with a socket, but kept having a problem because of the welds from them tack welding the washer to the nut. So I had to use a wrench on that side and tighten it down with an impact from the bolt side. Another quick helpful hint is that if you lose your strap or it gets frayed out on your winch, you can just buy the strap itself. You don't have to buy an entire new winch. I think they have them at Walmart, and Amazon sells them as well. So if you're unaware how the hydraulic brakes work on a trailer like this, there is a master cylinder inside the tongue of this trailer, just like on a regular vehicle, and this part of the hitch slides back and forth. So what happens is when you're braking, there's pressure applied there, it slides forward, pushing a rod which engages the master cylinder and applies braking power. And this will also happen going in reverse, backing up your driveway, etc. So in order to keep your brakes from locking up, going in reverse, this 5th wire on a 5-pin flat connector engages a solenoid on the brake line, so it stops the brake pressure from making it to the brakes. So I didn't even realize that was the case until I backed this trailer up into my yard the first time after getting it, and I only had a 7-pin connector to 4-way, and the brakes locked up on me as soon as I started backing up into my side yard, and I had to crack the brake line to relieve the pressure so I could get it into my yard. So after that happened, I actually went on Amazon and bought a 7-way RV to 5-pin flat connector adapter, and now I can back up into my side yard without a problem. So if you only have a 4-way flat connector on your vehicle, what you can do is go purchase a 5-way flat connector, and all you have to do is tie into the reverse power on one of your reverse lights at the back of your vehicle, and that way you can have that 5th wire on your trailer to disengage the brakes as well. So hopefully this video gave you guys some good information and it helped you out. If so, hit like and subscribe to my channel. Also, if you liked the way I broke that down so you could skip to different areas of my videos, let me know in the comments so I can continue to do that on future videos. And one more thing, when you're out camping or at the lake having a good time, try and leave it cleaner when you leave than when you came. And hope to see you next time. Have a good one. Later.